He raises some really important points, and I'd love the chance to briefly address them. One thing that we've been hearing is that we didn't charge crimes. And in some sense, that just duplicates a basic confusion that people have about what the process is. We are not criminal prosecutors prosecuting a criminal defendant in court to send him to jail. That's not what we're doing. We're members of Congress who are working to protect the country against a president who's committing high crimes and misdemeanors, that is, constitutional offenses against the people of the country. Now, lots of the conduct that we plead in our specific articles alleging abuse of power and obstruction of Congress themselves could become part of criminal indictments later on. But it's been a curious thing for me to hear our colleagues across the aisle repeatedly make this point and kind of spread this confusion that they're not crimes in there, when they were the very first ones to be saying and continue to say the Department of Justice cannot prosecute the president. The president may not be indicted. The president may not be prosecuted while he's in office. That's the position they take. They then cannot turn around and say, oh, and you can't impeach him because you haven't charged him with any crimes and prosecuted him and indicted him. You see, heads I win, tails you lose is the essence of that argument. And of course, if you go back to the Richard Nixon case, we didn't have to see that Richard Nixon had been convicted of burglary in the District of Columbia by ordering the break-in to the Watergate Hotel before he was charged with abuse of power as a high crime and misdemeanor. That's exactly what we're charging President Trump with here. We don't have to first go out and prove that he committed bribery or committed honest services fraud or committed extortion, all things that he really could be prosecuted for later. We simply have to allege the course of constitutional criminal conduct he was engaged in. And so I think that we can set that one aside. A second thing that my friend said was that there were no fact witnesses, that this was based on the report that was delivered to us by the House Committee on Intelligence. And of course, that's a play on words too. There were 17 fact witnesses who appeared before the House Committee on Intelligence, the House Oversight Committee, and the House Foreign Affairs Committee. The way that we structured this impeachment process, which is completely our prerogative under Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5, as you said, Mr. Chairman, is to have the fact investigation into this affair, which involved foreign governments and ambassadors and so on, in the Intelligence Committee, then to have them bring the facts in a comprehensive report to the House Judiciary Committee, which would then make the decision about the law. Do all of these events rise to what we think is impeachable conduct? And of course, we did. So there are lots of fact witnesses. The fact, we also had the counsel for the House Intelligence Committee come and to deliver the report and to defend the report, and all of my friends on the other side of the aisle had the chance to question, as we had the chance to question. When you say there were no fact witnesses, that's also a perfect description of what took place during the Bill Clinton impeachment, because all of that took place as part of the independent counsel investigation by Kenneth Starr. There were closed-door, secret depositions taking place there. Then Kenneth Starr came to deliver the report. Remember, all the boxes of material they brought over to the U.S. and gave it to the House Judiciary Committee. That was the end of it. Monica Lewinsky didn't testify before the House Judiciary Committee. There were not witnesses who had been there who were brought before the House Judiciary Committee. So we're following the exact same pattern, I think, that took place there, except that it was the House of Representatives here, which did its own fact investigation through this assortment of period. Finally, let me just say a word about the fairness of the process. And, you know, we all know what they teach you in law school, which is if the facts are against you, you pound the law. If the laws are against you, you pound the facts. If the law and the facts are against you, you talk about process and you pound the table. And I'm afraid I've seen a little bit of that in the performance of our colleagues here, and I don't blame them because they're dealing with the hand that they were dealt. We have 17 fact witnesses, and all of their depositions and all their testimony was published, all part of the report. Everybody can find it, and all of their testimony is essentially unrefuted and uncontradictory. It tells one story, which is the President of the United States conducted a shakedown of a foreign power. He used $391 million that we in Congress had voted for a besieged, struggling democracy, Ukraine, to defend itself against Russian invasion and attack, to coerce the president of that foreign government, President Zelensky, to get involved in our election campaign. What did he want him to do? Well, he wanted President Zelensky to make an announcement on television that Joe Biden was being investigated. Now, what does that have to do with the foreign policy of the United States? What does it have to do with what Congress voted for? What does it have to do with any legitimate interest of the U.S. government? But the other thing that he wanted President Zelensky to do was to rehabilitate the completely discredited conspiracy theory that it was Ukraine and not Russia that had interfered in our election. Our entire intelligence community, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, the Senate Committee on Intelligence issued a report about this. All of them say the same thing, which is that it was Russia that conducted what the Department of Justice called a sweeping and systematic campaign against our election in 2016. You remember, Mr. Chairman, they injected propaganda into our polity through social media, Facebook and Twitter and so on. They directly conducted cyber invasion and attack and espionage against the Democratic National Committee, the DCCC, Hillary Clinton's headquarters, and they directly tried to get into our state boards of elections. Not 2 or 3, all 50 of them they tried to get into. That's what Russia did. And now suddenly we have the President of the United States telling President Zelensky that if he wants the $391 million that we voted for him, and that he's been certified for by the Department of Defense, the Department of State, clearing every anti-corruption screen that had been put in place and called for by Congress. If he wants the money, and if he wants the White House meeting that he desperately wanted to show that America was on Ukraine's side and not Russia's side, if he wanted to get that stuff, he had to come and get involved in our presidential campaign, and he had to rehabilitate this discredited story about 2016.
Well, thank you. I think I've been listening to some of the commentary on the news from some of the pundits, and sometimes I think people need a lesson in constitutional law. That's why it's great that you're here. Let me ask you a basic question, because I think sometimes people don't understand this. Why is impeachment in the Constitution?
Oh, that's a great question. And Mr. Collins invoked indirectly my favorite American revolutionary, Tom Paine, who of course wrote Common Sense and The Age of Reason. And he said you can't have one without the other. In other words, you need the common sense of the people, and you need people to be conducting things according to reason, rationality, facts, empiricism, science. But why did Paine come all the way over here to participate in the American Revolution, which was not foreordained to win in any way? Because America was the first nation in history born out of a revolutionary struggle against monarchy, against the idea that you could have hereditary rule. Paine said a hereditary ruler is as ridiculous as a hereditary mathematician or hereditary artist, right? He said the people have got to decide on their own leaders. Now, impeachment is an instrument that our founders put into the Constitution, informed by the British experience. There was impeachment that Parliament had, but it wasn't against the king. It was only against royal ministers. Why? Because of the British doctrine, the king can do no wrong. Right? That's kind of like, the king can do whatever he wants. The king can do no wrong, and therefore the king can do no. But our founders insisted that impeachment be in there, not just for other civil officers who might commit high crimes and misdemeanors against the people, but against the president himself. And of course, the president, in the domestic emoluments clause, is limited to a fixed salary in office, which could be neither increased nor decreased by Congress, and he can't receive any other emoluments from the government itself, any other basis. The president is effectively an employee of the American people. That's the way he's done. He's not above the people, he's a servant of the people like all of us are. And the president's core job is what? To take care that the laws are faithfully executed. And if he doesn't faithfully execute the laws, if he thwarts the laws, if he tramples the laws, and he commits crimes against the American people, then we're not going to send him to prison. He's not going to go to jail for one day, but he needs to be removed in order to protect democracy.
And for the record, why is abuse of power an impeachable offense?
Well, abuse of power is the essential impeachment offense. That's why it's in there. What it's about is elevating the personal interests and ambitions of the president above the common good, above the rule of law, and above the Constitution. And so the founders didn't want a president who was going to behave like a king. We'd seen enough of that. We wanted a president who was going to implement laws, go out and implement the Affordable Care Act and implement the environmental laws. So that's your job. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
And so we've seen evidence that the president decided to withhold from Ukraine important official acts, the White House visit, military aid, in order to pressure Ukraine to announce investigations of Vice President Biden and the 2016 elections. Why does that constitute an impeachable offense?
Well, it basically implicates every single one of the concerns that were raised by the founders at the Constitutional Convention. One, it places the personal political agenda and ambitions of the president over enforcing laws and enforcing the rule of law. Two, it drags foreign powers into our election. That was something that the framers were terrified about. There was a great exchange between Adams and Jefferson about just this issue, that there would be constant foreign intrigue and influence, attempts to come and influence, because we would be an open democracy, and so people would try to exploit our openness by getting involved in our elections with their foreign government concerns, which is why the president had to have complete undivided loyalty to the American people and to the American Constitution, and not get involved with foreign governments, not drag foreign governments into our affairs. So basically, you have everything the framers were concerned about tied up into one bundle here, which is involving foreign governments in our elections, placing the president's interests over everything else, and then essentially threatening the rule of the people in democracy.
And where do you draw the line between a legitimate use of presidential power and an abuse of power? I mean, and why is it significant that President Trump acted for his personal political advantage and not for the furtherance of any valid national policy objective?
Well, that's a great question, because our colleagues have shrewdly zeroed in on the fact that some of the witnesses, including Ambassador Sondland, said, well, of course there was a quid pro quo. The president was not going to release the aid, he was not going to have the meeting until he got what he wanted in terms of political interference. And then even the president's White House chief of staff said, yes, of course there was a quid pro quo. I'm not quoting directly, so I don't know the exact words, but he's saying, yes, this is the way we proceed, get used to it, okay? And our colleagues have said, well, there's always quid pro quos tied up in foreign policy. In other words, it's legit to say to a foreign government, we will give you this aid if you comply that the aid is all being used in the proper way. We will give you this assistance if you attend these conferences and meetings with us to make sure that the assistance is being used properly, and so on. There's nothing wrong with that. But look at what happened here. This was an arrangement where the president conditioned all of this foreign assistance that we had sent, $200 million to the Department of Defense, $191 million to the Department of State to help Ukraine defend itself against Russia. And the president said, but what he was holding out for was the interference of the Ukrainian president in our election to harm his political opponents. And I think everyone can recognize that is not the normal kind of push and pull and arrangements that nations make for each other. Why? Because the president privileged his own political interests, and that's why it was all done secretly. Luckily, there were witnesses who were willing to come forward and to explain what happened.
Mr. Collins, I'll ask you and Mr. Reston the same question. I mean, was the president's call with President Zelensky perfect, as the president has said, and was it appropriate for him to ask another country to investigate an American citizen?
I think there was nothing, I've said this before, there's nothing wrong with the call, and then when you look at it again, frankly, the problem we're having right now is exactly the last 15 minutes of this. Great oratory on a lot of things that mean nothing to this actual impeachment.